Okay, now, just in general, the umbrella energy that we're all experiencing right now is actually Pluto in Aquarius. All right. So, like I was saying before in the previous video, Pluto goes back and forth. Um, Back and forth. That's called, going backwards is called retrograde. It goes backwards and forth. So we've been kind of getting a little taste of this thus far. But Pluto is an outer planet, so meaning it's a generational planet. It deals with transformation, death, sex, wealth, etc. It distinguishes generations of people. All right. Because it takes so long, it takes 15 years or so to transition through a particular sign. So the people born up under a particular Pluto sign will be similar in generational popular trends and overall mindset. It breeds a whole generation of people, and it represents the energy of a whole generation and the things that happens in that generation and everything like that. And that's the place in society that transformations take place or what have you. Um, so just as an example, I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. I was born in Pluto and Scorpio. You see what I'm saying? I grew up during the era of love songs, booty shaped music. I'm from the South. Um, gangster rap, hip hop in general. You see what I'm saying? You remember MC Hammer? You remember Tootsie Roll? You see what I'm saying? Well, Pluto and Aquarius ain't got none of that in it. Pluto and Aquarius ain't about none of that. So, Pluto and Aquarius represents fringe ideas of society. You understand? Um, Taboos, ancient things being found, high technology, potential for sexual deviancy. Um, these frequencies are turn up during this particular cycle. This is where the transformation in the society takes place again. Aquarius is parliament, legislature, city council, friends of nations. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of friction, transformation as far as allegiances on a global stage during this time. We're already seeing it. A lot of changing of laws, transformation as far as laws in parliament and city councils and things like that. Transformation as far as laws on a global scale. You see what I'm saying? This is the stuff that we're already seeing because we're already in this cycle. All right. Natural disasters, riots, coups. It's a lot of coups that took place in Africa recently and everything like that. Riots. You see what I'm saying? The stuff that happened in Haiti. All of this is Pluto in Aquarius. Um, Inventors, anarchists. So this is what we're dealing with from 2024 solidly. It's been ducking in and out of Aquarius this whole time or whatever. Let's say like since 2020, something like that, or whatever case may be. But it's firmly planted. It meaning Pluto in Aquarius is firmly planted going forward 2024 to 2044. So that's 20-year span of time. So everybody who comes from these other cycles like myself, Pluto and Scorpio and everything like that, when the world was different, Pluto and Capricorn, when it's more about capitalism and everyday hustling type thing, you see what I'm saying? You come in from these other cycles into what's going on now, and it feels kind of weird or whatever case may be, and it should feel weird because we're not from this frequency. You see what I'm saying? So that's why it feels so weird. So you aren't going crazy. The cycles are just changing. So now one major cycle, as I explained before, that this sits in among others, is the Saturn Pluto cycle that started January of 2020, and that coincided with the COV thing and the Capitol riots, etc., what have you. The cycles work like this. All right. Anybody who's familiar with how music works or songs that are played on the radio, songs people record songs or whatever, that's kind of the best analogy I can think of to do it. The cycles work like this: person recording a song where one sound gets overlaid on top of others until you have a blend of various vocals, instruments, and sounds, creating a song or piece of music. So that's kind of how it works. How we talking about the Saturn Pluto conjunction. So its other cycles is um, Pluto Neptune, is Pluto Uranus and everything like that. It's other overarching cycles, and they all form this music as they go through their whole little transits or whatever case may be. And the music translates to the experiences we have on this physical level. So Pluto transitioning Aquarius is one process going on. So you can look at this as a process unfolding. Okay. Next, you have the Saturn Pluto conjunction in January 2020. That's 0 degrees, like I was describing in the other video. When I'm talking about cycles, I'm talking about the planets being at 0 degrees, and then over time they're moving and they're going on a trajectory of 360 degrees, and then at some point they go back together again to 0 degrees. And in between this time, in between this trajectory, you get your squares, sextiles, oppositions, and all that stuff like that. So this is what I'm calling cycles. Okay, so let's see here. Saturn and Pluto are at 0 degrees. And anybody can look this stuff up, by the way. Saturn and Pluto is at 0 degrees January 2020. That's the COP thing. That's January 6th. Okay, it's May right now when I'm making this video. That would be the semi-square. That was April 9th, 2024. That was around the time of the drone attack from Palestine to Israel. That's 45 degrees of this cycle. So we started in January 2020. That's 0 degrees. April last month was 45 degrees. So interesting thing. July 8th, 2025, we have Saturn in Aries forming a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius or whatever. Now, Saturn in Aries is an interesting thing because a lot of in the 60s, a lot of assassinations took place while Saturn was in Aries. I think Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, both of the Kennedys died when Saturn was in Aries. So that's just a little tidbit right there. Okay, and you also have Neptune conjunct Saturn in Aries and everything like that. All this is happening in the first decan of Aries. And decans is the various divisions. You have 30 degrees for a sign. You have them divided into 3 parts. Those are decans. Decans like decade, like 10. Aries, which suggests a splitting apart. The first decan of Aries deals with a splitting apart, a separation of something. So the relevance of Neptune conjunct Saturn in Aries is the whole Civil War was fought with Neptune opposition Aries, and I'm telling you now, it's a splitting apart. So 2025, something's going to happen where it's going to be a splitting apart. A new mindset's going to develop, or whatever case may be. So we must be mindful that the entire Civil War was fought up under the Neptune Saturn opposition. Saturn and Aries, that's gun laws. That's Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Kennedy assassinated. That's Saturn conjunct Neptune cycle. That correlates with the rise and the evolution of communism. So that's going to be a major theme during this cycle, or what have you. Then you have Neptune and Aries. That's charismatic leaders and things of that nature, or whatever. So before we move too far forward, just on a side note, so in 2025, some sort of split or separation is going to take place, or what have you. So if I go back to what I was saying in the previous video, I had an honorable mention. I was going to talk about Pluto in Aquarius, and I was going to talk about the Saturn Pluto conjunction, but I also had some honorable mention things that I talked about in the beginning of the last video. I was talking about a Mars Pluto opposition in November. So that's almost guaranteed something is going to disrupt the sanctity of that election in November. Almost guaranteed. Let's see. On a side note, November 2024, which is the election month, goes back to one of the many honorable mentions, okay, that I mentioned about Mars specifically. Mars in Leo, Pluto in Capricorn, in their forming opposition. I would also bet my shoes and socks that the election will have controversy. Looking at Trump's chart, I think he will face against a woman. I don't know what's happening to Joe Biden or whatever, but it looks as if he will face off against a woman. I think he will face off against a woman. She will win, and people will be pissed. Okay, I didn't look at Kamala Harris's chart, but I mean, I would assume that would be the obvious woman that he would face off against. But okay, she's gonna win and people will be pissed. Okay, so something else that I'm seeing, okay, there is an unaliving energy that I see around a particular politician. I would tell, and again, I'm not political on this. I don't have a dog in the fight or what have you. I want the best for the country because I live here. You see what I'm saying? But based on what I'm seeing, I tell Trump to be careful. I think he has a natal Pluto Sun square around that time. Um, he has death energy around him around that time. You see what I'm saying? Just to keep it 100. You know, I'm not wishing it on him. I'm not saying it's etched in stone something gonna happen to him. I hope I'm wrong as far as thinking this, but that's what he got around him around that time. So I would tell him to be careful. Um, let's see here. Let's see here. Pluto hits the ascendant around November 8th, or all the way through the 11th of November, falling on the third deck in the Capricorn. The third deck in the Capricorn ties into the Four of Pentacles in the Tarot card deck, and your the planet Pluto, the god of death, is sitting right there. So it's some well-established person with money and clout that looks like they will have they're gonna have a brush with with death. But just moving on from that, honorable mention again, Uranus Pluto trine. Okay, that's in July 2026 to May 2028. Okay, this is the cycle that started in 1966. Like I was saying on a previous video, this is what The Omen was about. This is what the movie The Omen was about. In recent history, the last time this happened was the rise of Hitler and Stalin, right? This may also correspond with the proposed singularity with the AI. This energy is potentially totalitarian. So this would correspond potentially with the rise of some dictator. You see what I'm saying? So this would be this is in July 2026. It's not like one day or oh man, you just gonna wake up and blink and this or that is gonna be changed, but something may happen, or it may be a gradual change that something significant may happen in or around that time. Let's see. Let's see. This energy is potentially totalitarian and may give rise to an individual born during the conjunction in 1966. Like I always say, and I ain't really gonna go into it too much, but ain't but one president born in the 60s. Period. So leaving that alone. Another honorable mention date would be June 10th, 2028. That's the Saturn Pluto square, which corresponds with the cyclical 7-year crashing of the stock market. You see what I'm saying? If you calculate every time the stock market has crashed, it's 7 years in between. It's a Uranus cycle. Let's see, dates of honorable mention. Um, Saturn Pluto trine, that's May 20th, 2031. Um, let's see, the Saturn Pluto in conjunct, that's August 4th, 2033. Now, this next date I'm gonna give, July 24th, 2036. This is the Saturn Pluto opposition. This is when the gods of death face off. You see what I'm saying? Saturn and Pluto, the two gods of death. So this is based on this being in the second decan of Leo. This would I would think this would entail some sort of fight or some sort of conflict that takes on some sort of serious major conflict that happens, and there is a definitive winner and a definitive loser. 2036, the gods of death face off. So I would think this may tie into the possible invasion of America prophecies, or the or that stuff, and everybody think, oh man, you talking crazy, talking invasion of America. Okay, that's the same stuff Lead the World Behind was talking about. I think they talking about 2036 at the opposition when the gods of death face off. So and I say this, a lot of people, when I say stuff like that, they like to tell me what they believe in and who they pray to and all that. And I like to tell them, I'm talking about two physical planets in the sky or whatever. Ken, what you believe or who you pray to stop the different those planets from being at 180 degrees. No disrespect, but I'm just being realistic. And these are the things that happened last time something like that happens. And this is what it implies. So this is just half of that cycle. Remember, we're going to 2053 with this cycle and everything like that. It doesn't end to 2053, this particular cycle, but that's the halfway point. That's the tipping point in that. So I just want to give out some dates so people kind of know what we're walking into over the next 20 years. Thank y'all for listening. Leave your comments.